Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahakrite Kim va parerishwaraha Sadyo hridyavarudhyate trakritibihi Shushrushubistatchana. Hari Om and greetings from Cleveland. In our culture, we have a flow and we are to follow samskaras. There are various systems of samskaras. The most popular now contains 16. And the 16th samskara is called Antya Ishti. Antya means final, like Anta. Ishti means yajna or sacrifice. In a sacrifice, there is an element of giving. Agreed? In a fire sacrifice, materials are given to a fire. With Antyeshti, what is given is the ego. The ego gives itself up. We have now made Antyeshti about the body, when factually, Antyeshti is about the ego. The only way this will be possible is if one follows the vision of our samskaras, which is right actions should nurture right attitudes, which will nurture the right Atma. Atma means that which is closest. We're born feeling that which is closest is the ego. That's why we're defensive. Before this body dies, we should feel that which is closest is not the ego, but rather the spirit. The right actions nurture the right attitudes, which nurtures the right Atma. All that I'm describing can be shared in a different way. It is changing the Anatma Vasana to the Atma Vasana. Vasana means print.
How is a print formed? By strength. How is strength developed? Sincerity. How is sincerity developed? Steadiness. What we are doing in this course, we are being steady. We're approaching hour 120. That steadiness, I pray, has evolved to sincerity. That sincerity, I pray, will evolve to strength, which will create an impact, a print on who we are. That we are bhaktas. What do bhaktas do? They associate with bhaktas. When bhaktas are with bhaktas, the only purpose, the only focus is Bhagavan. In Bhagavad Gita, the teachings begin in chapter 2, verse 11. And the foremost teaching is to know Brahma. In Meaningful Mornings, I simply changed the word to vastness. Know Brahma, the same as know vastness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the teaching is exactly the same. The only change is it is not knowing Brahma, it is knowing Bhagavan. Not to know vastness, but rather to know divinity. This is most clear as Bhagavan Krishna's Leela is shifting to become unmanifest. As soon as this is happening, a profound dialogue begins between Raja Nimi and the Nava Yogis or the Nava Rishis. This whole dialogue is about where will Bhagavan Krishna go? How does one feel Bhagavan Krishna when he becomes unmanifest? Please be oriented to why this dialogue is happening right here, right now. The first Rishi to answer Raja Nimi is Rishi Kavi. Raja Nimi's question is, what is Kshema? Kshema means the greatest goodness. And Rishi Kavi responds, Bhagavat Dharma. Bhagavat Dharma. In a very simplistic sense, all that you do for Bhagavan. All that you are is Bhagavan. A very beautiful sentiment that's shared before this answer is given. I come back to that example of, if you close your eyes and run, that you will not fall. How this is possible factually, if one closes their eyes and runs and doesn't fall, that's only possible if there is no samsara. For those who are practicing Bhagavata Dharma, there is no samsara. There's nothing to fall into. So how can one fall? All that one does, all that one is, there's only Maya Pati, not Maya. The second Rishi to answer is Rishi Hari. Raja Nimi's question is, what are the linga? What are the indicators of the one who is following Bhagavata Dharma? So number one is, what is the end? Number two is, how does one know one has reached the ends? And the answer that is given is Bhagavata Bhava. Bhagavata Bhava. Bhava means feeling or sense. The feeling or sense that there is only Bhagwan. Do you all remember the Uttama Bhakta, who feels oneness in all and all in oneness? The Madhyama Bhakta feels more separation. The Prakrita Bhakta feels a great deal of separation. Practically, how can we build up this sense of Bhagavata Bhava? These vices are to be checked. I'm going to flow through them. The vices are, we should practice not reacting. Next, we should practice not being confused. I think I should just stop there. That's enough. Forget about the rest. Not reacting. That's enough for this lifetime. Not reacting, not being confused. Next, not misidentifying. Not misidentifying. Next, not arrogating. Arrogating, the sense of doership. Next, not possessing, the sense of deservership. Next, not being distracted. It's fascinating how much this comes up in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, to not be distracted. It feels like society is encouraging the opposite, to be more distracted. Next, to not feel being burned. This sense of burning. I'm always uncomfortable. I'm always agitated. Did you all read the rad that I posted this week? A is for adults. Adults are agitated. C is for children. Children are comfortable. Today's subject is very heavy. So let me lighten it before we get into more heaviness. Many years ago, I was in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis in the summer is hot. It's the plains. And I was teaching a group of kids, and later on we were playing soccer, and the organizers brought popsicles out. And we were all just relaxing, and one really young boy, he must have been 5. He's eating his popsicle, but he's doing a poor job at eating his popsicle. It's all over his mouth, his throat, his hands, and I'm just eating mine and becoming more uncomfortable seeing him being so wasteful, and that sugar is everywhere. And it's almost like he was my antaryami. He could read what I was thinking. And he says, look, Vivekji, popsicle flavored fingers. And then he starts licking his hands like this. I've never been back to Minneapolis. That's Vivek burning. See, no Bhagavad Dharma, only burning. And the last teaching that Rishi Hari shares, a very lovely way to make sure that these vices are checked, is to tie up Bhagwan in your heart. Use the ropes of devotion. And that's so lovely. The word guna means rope, but here it's being spun to let bhakti be that rope, and you tie up Bhagwan. Now think of this, how efficient this is. If Bhagwan is living inside of you, can there be any sense of being reactive, misidentifying, and so on? if that's too poetic for you, this morning when you were looking in the mirror as you brushed your teeth, who knows why you need to look in the mirror to brush your teeth, but let's say that you were doing that. As you were looking in the mirror, were you feeling jealous of the person in the mirror? Were you feeling lusty towards the person in the mirror? Because there's oneness there. There can only be vices in separation. There cannot be vices in oneness. Shall we continue? Okay. We continue with this Navayogi Upadesha, a very special dialogue on how can we feel Bhagavan Krishna when Bhagavan Krishna is as if hard to feel. He's not playing his flute anymore. He's chosen not to get married to anyone else. We've lost our chance. So how do I still feel Bhagavan Krishna? The 11th skanda, the 3rd adhyaya. We're continuing to chapter 3, the first shloka. Rajanimi is now asking to Rishi Andariksha. Andariksha. Parasya Vishnurishasya Mayinam api mohinim Mayam veditumichamo Bhagavanto bruvantunaha. Parasya Vishnoho Ishasya. The Supreme Vishnu, who is the Lord of all. Mayinam api mohinim, on account of who even the masterful are deluded. Therefore, mayam veditum ichamaha, I desire to know what Maya is. In very simplistic terms, the third question, what is Maya? Bhagavanto bruvantunaha, please elaborate on this to us. Clear? What is kshema? What is linga? Now, what is Maya? I'm very fond of such dialogues because I feel bhakti is presented in a jnana way, an organized framework way. We went through such a dialogue in Sri Rama Gita. Do you all remember that? Sri Lakshmana asks Bhagavan Rama 5 questions, he answers. In that dialogue, one of the questions was, what is Maya? And I know you all remember, so now when I ask you to write that in the chat, I will see that answer, correct? What is Maya? Just guess. How would you describe Maya to the letter carrier? Measurement, that which is not. You think the letter carrier is going to be okay with that? That which is not. Maya is separation. In Sri Rama Gita, Maya is defined as separation. Another really lovely dialogue that we got to experience was between the student, that is Garuda, and the teacher, that is Kaka Bushundi. After Bhagavan Rama's Leela was completed, in the Uttarakanda, the last section, there is this dialogue where 7 questions are asked. And the first question is, what is the greatest form? Here the question was, what is the greatest good? There the question was, what is the greatest form? And we did study Ramayana for 80 hours, 2.5 years. So please tell me, what is the greatest form? Guess. Long time ago. The greatest form, that answer was already given in the prelude to this. Yes, a human form. Very good. That was a really good guess. It is to be born as a human is the greatest form because a human can be Bhagwan. The answer. The answer is given from verses 3 to 16. A very elaborate answer. An entire answer is given, and the last portion of each answer is, this is the Lord's Maya. This is the Lord's Maya. I feel that this will bore you, so I'm going to summarize all of the answers that are given. What is Maya? This is Maya. I'm only going to read the first answer that is given, verse 3. The question was in 1 and 2. The answer is 3 all the way to 16. Ebir bhutani bhutatma mahabhuter mahabhuja sasarjocha vachan yadyaha swamatratma prasiddhaye. Ebihi, these. Here, these is referring to the elements. Space, air, fire, water, earth. Bhutani, all of these beings are really a combination and permutation of elements. Inside all of this, Bhutatma. Inside all of this is the Supreme, the Lord, Vishnu. Mahabhutaihi, these elements that make up the beings have come from the great elements. So these micro elements that make up Vivek's body have come from the macro elements. Mahabhuja, he's calling Rajanimi the strong-armed one, like Mahabaho. Sasarjocha, which means these beings are created avachan yadyaha, as higher and lower. Swa, but they're all made up of Bhagwan Narayana. Swa, as in Vishnu. Matratma, and all of these beings have different purposes. Some beings have a purpose for pleasure. Some have a purpose of Atma or peace. Prasiddhaye, that's how they live. Okay, that's the translation. Let me share this in a summarized way. What is Maya? From Bhagwan has come the macro elements. The macro elements have made up the micro elements. The micro elements make up the body. Beings have bodies and they go about living with different purposes. Okay? Now a whole elaboration is given on what happens from here. So listen carefully, reflect on this. The actual details need not be addressed because it will be overwhelming. Here's what happens. Our parent creates the elements, who creates our bodies. That's verse 3. In verse 4, our parent becomes our mind and our sense organ and the sense objects. So Bhagwan is the body. Bhagwan is what's inside of the body. Bhagwan is what's outside of the body. In verse 5, though we are to be the Prabhu, we are to be the master of this body and all it does, what has happened? We have started to feel that we are not the master of the body, but that we are the body. And then we experience samsara. The word body in Sanskrit means that which is ever changing. Samsara also means that which is ever changing. In verse 6, we start to feel incomplete. So we start to act for completion. And all that happens is we create more prints or vasanas. And the more prints or vasanas we have, the more we need to be born. The more vasanas, more births. And that's emphasized in verse 7, where details on the repetition are given. I live, I try to create joy, that becomes my blueprint, I die, I'm born again. We just keep repeating this. And I hope all of you are reasonably clear about how many repetitions we've gone through. By the time we're enlightened, we would have gone through 840,000 different wombs. We would have been a worm, we would have been a bee, we would have been born in Africa, we would have been born in Venezuela. And this would have happened over approximately 1 billion years. That's with a B. So this repetition should be extremely intimidating to us. Verse 8, as this is happening to us, time withdraws its support of creation. So creation that is manifest becomes unmanifest. In verse 9, what is the exact detail about this manifest to unmanifest? It starts with a drought. Fascinating, no? What we're going through right now. That's the transition from manifest creation to unmanifest with a drought. There is no rain and the sun is intense. In verse 10, then, from Patala, that is the lowest dimension in our creation. We have 7 dimensions up, 7 dimensions down. Patala opens up and Shesha. Shesha is the one who supports this creation. Opens its mouth, and what comes out of its mouth? Fire. Fire comes out. The exact terminology is Sangarshana Mukha Analaha. So now here's creation. From the top, there is burning. From the bottom, there is burning. In verse 11, then what happens? Rain. And what's really cool is the rain is described as, can you show me with your hands how big a raindrop is? Typically, right? The raindrop, let's say. The raindrops are as big as the circumference of an elephant's trunk. So imagine an elephant's trunk would be like that, correct? So those are the raindrops. One raindrop on you and you're out. You know, we all have car damage because of hail. Imagine such rain. Insurance won't cover that. In verse 12, correct? Is that where I am right now? Verse 12. Can you imagine studying this without this summary? Even with the summary, what is happening right now? In verse 12, Bhagavan Brahma disidentifies from all that is happening. All of the drought, all of the rain, he disidentifies from creation, so it has no more power anymore. It is becoming listless. Then the earth merges with water, Water merges with fire. That we've come across in Tattva-bodha, etc. That was verse 13. And verse 14, fire merges with air. Air merges with space. Then time pulls away from space, disidentifies from space. And so space merges with tamas. Tamas, the guna tamas. In verse 15, tamas merges with rajas. Rajas merges with sattva. Sattva merges with prakriti. Prakriti here means Maya. You see the loop. We started with Maya, went through all of this and back to Maya. And verse 16, I really like the structure of these answers. An answer is given, an elaboration is given, and then the solution is given. Prakriti merges with Purusha. The same Bhagavan Narayana from whom the macro elements came, that all merges with Bhagavan Narayana. Ramayana is simpler, no? What is Maya? Separation. Same question here. 16 verses on the details on the separation. But the practice is given here. Keep on disidentifying from that which is shallow and keep identifying with that which is deep. And my final thought is Bhagavata Dharma is all that you do for him. All that you are is him. See how that answer was given in the first paragraph. From Narayana came the elements. From the elements came the body. So is it your shoulder? Is it your lung? Is it your mind? We're supposed to be the Prabhu. We've become the Nokar. So what is Maya? Forgetting you're the Prabhu, feeling that you're the Nokar. We're supposed to be Mayapati. We become Maya. Oh.